Excellent evening to our loyal listeners. You're welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Kike. Today, we'll be taking a look at a very controversial and important societal issue that is ongoing about Nollywood actress who recently disclosed that she is quitting her marriage after 2 years because of domestic abuse that she has been subjected to. According to her husband beats and rapes her each time he comes home when he's drunk. I know a lot of Nigerian women and men go through this on a daily basis, on a daily, and do not have the courage to speak up. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about abuse in marriage and in relationship. With me in the studio is a friend of Inspiration Family. She wears a lot of caps as she's the author, wife, mother. The husband is right behind us. And a marriage and relationship personal coach. Her name is Shola Oguche Aguda. Hope I did not murder your name. Forgive me. Please teach me how to pronounce your name.
Shola Oguche Aguda.
Okay. Lagos, you heard that. I think I don't need to pronounce the name.
You tried.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
We have our second guest is on his way. We have Femi Jacobs who will be joining us soon in the studio. But he's one person that I can tell you categorically that I admire so much for a very long time. So it's good to be seated next to him today. Contrary to popular belief, physical abuse is not the only form of abuse in marriage. As a matter of fact, according to marriage.com, there are 4 different types of abuse: physical, psychological, verbal, and emotional. Another thing we need to point out here is that it's not gender-based. This means that either the man or the woman can be abused in a marriage or in a relationship, while emotional abuse can be characterized by constant denial of your rights to express your feelings. Then psychological abuse comes with all sorts of restriction, refusal to go out, withholding of keys, or stopping you from reaching out to family or loved ones. So verbal and physical abuse are the most common and most experienced in this part of the world, which we'll be diving into, because we have all sorts of signs when it comes to verbal abuse, like name calling, eating, etc. Let's start from here. Why do men abuse their wives after taking a vow to love and cherish her? Vice versa.
Yeah. So I think one thing that I found to be common across board is that broken people break people.
Okay.
So what happens is that I don't think anybody wakes up one day and says, today I'm just going to be a terrible husband, or today I'm just going to be a terrible wife. What we find out is that when in the case of someone abusing, you will find out that if you go into their backgrounds, there's either history of abuse or history of brokenness or history of something unresolved. One of the things we usually say is that you do not go into marriage with baggage. And so if you have unresolved baggage, right, you think you're fine. Some people will say they see the signals or they see the signs. Some people will say, honestly, I didn't see any red flags. But you go into marriage and then you find out that, I didn't deal with these things. In fact, sometimes when you say the abuser, they don't even know what has triggered it. They don't know what it is that has set them off. But because those things or those areas of their lives are not dealt with, when something comes to trigger it, they just carry it out, or you just lash out on your partner. So we find out that broken people break people, and that is one of the major causes of, abuse.
So what's your take when it comes to the 4 forms of abuse that I mentioned earlier?
Okay. So like you're right, verbal abuse is very clear. So that person is, speaking down at you, using insultive words and all of that. Physical abuse, we know, is hitting and all of that. In fact, another one that is very common that people don't know that they're even under is emotional abuse, where the person is not hitting you, where the person, so you can't really say that this person is hitting you, but the person has emotionally detached themselves from you. So you live like strangers in the house. There is no emotional connection. It's like the person has willingly said, I will not have anything to do with you beyond a certain boundary. And so this is common. In fact, my greatest challenge is that I wish we could solve the problems before we go into marriage. I don't think that we're getting educated enough in the principle of marriage. And so most people go into that not knowing that they're dealing with all sorts of things. And when triggers come in, like maybe financial pressure, or maybe someone standing up to you, or things not going on well, anything that causes some form of, something like a deviation from the normal, just triggers that thing in you that you didn't even know was there. Now, the bad thing about abuse is that immediately you start, you continue.
All right, Shola, do you know that in the world or in the society where we live today, loads of women who are suffering in their marriage, we would rather not leave the abusive marriage. What are your thoughts on that?
So the truth is that there's this stigma about marriage which we actually have to get rid of. I would say that the first thing, so this is what we say if there is physical abuse, first thing, just distance yourself from that situation. Because the worst thing that can happen to you is that you're trying to see how it works and then you lose your life. As we've seen happen to quite a number of people, who people will say, oh, we spoke to them and we talked to them and they did not even listen. So we say when there's physical abuse, can you first distance yourself from that situation and let's see if there is any hope for reconciliation. Now, any other form of abuse is equally as bad, but we also have to stop the stigma of people not wanting to speak to people. Everybody says, oh, no third party. And I've been trying to explain that third party is not, when we say third party, it doesn't mean die in silence. It doesn't mean don't speak about what is going on in your mind. It means find someone trusted.
I think it's the culture we live in.
Yes, so the culture says, so what's happening is that we are covering all sorts. And sometimes you realize that if someone had spoken out earlier, we might have found redemption. In the case of abuse, both the abuser and the abusee, if you can use that, are victims.
You're right.
And sometimes when there's intervention, you will find out that case can be dealt with. But there's no intervention. Sometimes people have lost their lives. People are, I was listening to something about, someone wrote something on Facebook and she was almost celebrating the breakup of her marriage. But that's not what she was doing. She was saying, I'm happy I left alive. I'm happy I have my emotions back in control. I'm happy that, my life, in a way, I kind of get some semblance of freedom again. So she felt like she was in bondage because she was in all forms of abuse, joined together. So
do you share my sentiments when I say that women can also abuse their husbands?
Definitely.
Yeah. So what's your take on it?
Well, I think anybody can abuse. So can be an abuser. That's, in fact, this brings me to actually a movie I was watching yesterday. And this girl was, she was saying that she'd always lived, she grew up with I think her dad left, her stepdad abused her, and she didn't think she was worth anything. And so she began to abuse her husband, and her own form of abuse was constantly cheating on her husband. So she wasn't hitting him or all of that, but she emotionally distanced herself from him, and then she was cheating on that relationship. So it's back to that principle of us saying, when you are broken, you will actually break other people. Yeah. When you have unresolved matters in your life, you would actually, it will always come up, just like what we say that you will repeat the mistakes of your parents if you do not consciously make sure that you do not go down that path. So once again, broken people break people. And so what we should be doing is, before we go into marriage or when we find ourselves in that situation, we should be asking ourselves, what are the broken areas of my life? What led to this?
Okay, I guess we have some calls.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining us. What's your name and where are you calling from?
The name is Kike from Michelle.
Okay. What's your contribution today?
Actually, I want to say that what causes most times this abuse is cultural background. Back those days when we were growing up, your parents will speak and they tell you a specific thing, and at the end of the day, you take it into your own marriage, your future marriage. And you never consider the background the person is coming from. Most times, people that get married do not go and make a background check. They just jump into the whole thing, and I think marriage will not last. And that is why we are having abuses all over and breakage of marriages. So that's just what I think.
Okay, thank you for your contribution. Hello, we have another caller on the line. Yeah, hello, good afternoon. Where are you calling from? What's your name, please?
This is Eniola calling from Ikeja.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I really want to applaud Shola for what she has said. Like, broken people really break a relationship. Yeah. That thing is, it is true, because I think I'm a victim. Despite being broken in a relationship, I find it so difficult to go into any relationship. In fact, any relationship I go into, I feel I will be broken just because of the past wound I had though it has healed, but I just find it so difficult to get over it. And it's something that is really, really disturbing me up till date, and I am always finding it difficult to continue. So I'm really enjoying the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling. Thank you for your contribution.